You know what I haven't seen a lot of recently? Oh, what happened on my universe mode pay-per-view special! It's Backlash, and it was in Chicago, Illinois, as we started with some Taker time as he took on Santino Marella. Now, while the dead man may be getting frustrated at having to take on minnows like Santino Marella again, the little Italian gave as good as he got and managed to hold his own for the opening portion of the match. Marella managed to even take the Phenom off his feet, but once that happened, he must have annoyed him, because the Undertaker didn't really let him get much offense in after that. And when he did get some offense in, he just ended up getting chokeslammed. Once he'd hit the chokeslam, the Undertaker did his signature dive to the outside, followed by a back suplex. But then, we went into Bizarro World, as Santino took a little advantage. And even though he was knocked to the outside, he got back in and did a diving headbutt. Unfortunately for Santino, that was his last chance at offense, as the Undertaker took control completely after that, finishing him with a tombstone. Although, I think he managed to get a bit impressed by Santino. We followed that with some tag team action as Rob Van Dam and Rey Mysterio took on Chicago's finest, CM Punk and Lex Luger. And although the hometown heroes had the crowd support, they did not have the match entirely in their own hands, as Rey Mysterio and Rob Van Dam managed to get some respectable offense. As it happens, despite the team of Mysterio and Van Dam being much more experienced, the thrown together combo of CM Punk and Lex Luger were working fine as a tandem. In fact, both teams were working rather well come the middle of the match, as it was rather open. As the match wore on, we had no idea who was going to win and who would become the front runners to take on the tag team champions at the next pay-per-view. Eventually, CM Punk and Lex Luger would gain a bit more advantage, which just allowed Rob Van Dam to make a comeback move. After hitting his comeback move, RVD set up for Rolling Thunder. What he didn't reckon on though was CM Punk hitting him in the back of the head. It knocked him a little for 6, and eventually Luger would hit his running forearm. And then a procession of finishing moves came about on Rob Van Dam. Once this slingshot had hit, he managed to get a tag to Rey Mysterio, but all he got was a pile driver and a torture rack, which he tapped out to, giving Luger and Punk the submission victory. Here are your winners. More tag team action next, and it's a rematch from the past week's main event, as Sting and the Ultimate Warrior took on Kevin Nash and Mr. Perfect, but this time they put the World Tag Team Championship on the line. Despite a small bit of offense from Sting, the opening part of this match belonged to Kevin Nash. He pounded Sting down to the mat several times, threw him about, forcing him to get the tag. And when he did get the tag, they hit a double team move, sure, but then Kevin Nash was back on the attack, eventually hitting the Ultimate Warrior with the jackknife powerbomb. That didn't finish him off though, but it didn't stop Kevin Nash, and they had to resort to more double team tactics. Kevin Nash tagged out, and Mr. Perfect found that when he got in the ring, Sting was really up for the challenge, so the first chance he got, he tagged back out. Kevin Nash continued where he left off, and got a near fall. A DDT and a knockout punch later, and he got another near fall, but luckily the Ultimate Warrior saved Sting's bacon. What then happened was an unfortunate repeat of main event, where Mr. Perfect stayed in the ring for too long, and the frustration was clear to see on Kevin Nash's face. So after one disqualification finish, we weren't going to get another, as Booker T took on Ric Flair in a last man standing match. The match began quite open, with Ric Flair dishing out a fair bit of punishment, but once the match got to the outside, Booker T got his shots in. The match continued to be open as we carried on, even when Ric Flair got the upper hand using underhanded tactics, i.e. this low blow. It wasn't enough for him to gain full advantage, as Booker T would follow up eventually with a Houston hangover. We thought it was the end for Booker T when Ric Flair took this chair and smashed him a couple of times in the head with it, but he managed to get up and hit the scissor kick to keep Ric Flair down for a 10 count. He even had time for a spinneroonie to celebrate. It was European Championship time, and the champion Raven took on Stone Cold Steve Austin, who beat Mr. Perfect a few weeks back, to get this shot. It was Stone Cold who had the early advantage in this match, laying down some beatings on Raven. Raven tried to take it to the outside, but after he hit a couple of moves, Steve Austin threw him into the steel steps. Twice. Back in the ring, Raven got himself back into it, even hitting an early DDT. He knew it was too early to pin him though, so he just continued the beatdown. Stone Cold opened the match back up with a back suplex. And after trading moves, Stone Cold hit the Stone Cold Stunner. He went for the pin, but it was a rope break. After that, Stone Cold hit a spinebuster, but Raven would slink out and gain the upper hand again. Stone Cold chased him back into the ring, but got stomped on the toes, and then a double arm DDT. Raven continued with another DDT, this time to his leg. That wouldn't keep Stone Cold down. Another spinebuster headed Raven's way, but when Stone Cold tried another move, Raven reversed it and hit the actual DDT for the win to retain the title. Continuing a feud now, the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels took on Batista in an Extreme Rules match. In the early going, this match was all Batista. When Shawn Michaels went to the top rope, Batista moved out the way, and then continued to beat down on the Heartbreak Kid. The match made its way to the outside, and after a Batista belly to belly, Shawn Michaels was finally able to hit another move. He followed that with a chair shot and a chair DDT. He then decided the weapons were too small and went and got a table. After Batista had badly sold that double axe handle, he belly to bellied Shawn Michaels onto the table, and the table badly sold being broken. Michaels managed to wriggle out of a Batista slam attempt and hit a backbreaker himself. A chop later and he went and got the steel steps. Batista, however, said no and hit him with a spear. He'd hit him with a side suplex after that and go for the pin. Only a 1. Shawn Michaels then threw him up in the air and hit a brilliant Sweet Chin Music for the 1, 2, 3. Shawn Michaels victorious, but has this feud ended? This now leaves us with tonight's main event. And Triple H, after tricking Chris Jericho into thinking he had a title shot on main event in the past week, but then getting intentionally disqualified, gave him an actual title shot this time, and it was Falls Count Anywhere. At the beginning of the match, it was open, very open, both men hitting their fair share of offense. It wasn't until the match inevitably headed to the outside that things took a turn for the worse for one man. Once on the outside, Triple H was able to gain the upper hand, taking Jericho down, and while he was down, he got the sledgehammer and put him down some more. Jericho, however, managed to get the sledgehammer himself and hit him with a nice revenge shot. A neck breaker later, and he put him back in the ring. So both men were back in the ring, but the sledgehammer followed too, and they continued their little battle with the sledgehammer, with both men getting pretty heavy hits in. The action continued as Triple H hit a slam and a spinebuster. This wasn't enough to keep Jericho down though, who hit a neckbreaker and then went for the lion salt. Triple H moved out of the way and then went to work on him with the steel steps. Again, Jericho was up and he locked on a submission. Triple H powered out of it and finally put Jericho out of his misery with a pedigree. Or so we thought. A 2 count. Triple H was pissed off and beat the shit out of him with a sledgehammer. Went for the pin, but it was another 2 count. Jericho just wasn't staying down. Triple H's frustrations were showing and ended up being thrown into the corner and clotheslined by Jericho. On the outside, they both had chairs, but Triple H ended up on top. A spinebuster later, and he was preparing to put Jericho through the announce desk. The perfect time for a Jericho reversal then, as he powered his way out and put Triple H down. He, however, only got a 2 count when he pinned him. Triple H then took him to the top of the announce desk and pedigreed him through it. The bloody Jericho was down for the 3 count, and Triple H managed to retain the WWE title. I hope you enjoyed the video. Join us next time on What Happened on My Universe Mode. Like and subscribe.